Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Dr. Judith Reisman recently returned from Ireland and the Great Britain area, and we're going to be talking about her important research and why she was there. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, and joining me is Dr. Judith Reisman. Welcome to Faith and Freedom.
Thank you very much, Matt. Happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you. And you've written a number of books on Alfred Kinsey,
yes.
And obviously that's what took you to Ireland and over to London and other places around the world. We talked the first 2 days of this week regarding your trip to the Vatican and the issues that you addressed there. When you went to Ireland, what was your focus in Ireland in terms of what was the issues that you were addressing, and what are some of the cultural issues that Ireland is facing, as well as London and the other parts of Great Britain?
Right. Well, it was very much the same sort of thing. I was sent by a Catholic organization, so they were quite concerned with the collapse of the youth, particularly, the collapse of their reliance on Catholicism. These young people were traumatized, if not by actual abuse themselves, but by the knowledge that so many priests were molesting young boys. And by the way, it's not any more than in our public schools, a lot less, in fact, per capita. But still, the whole notion that priests who represented God could have been involved in that sort of activity, that sort of abuse, really traumatized the youth, the Catholic youth. And so they were just leaving the church en masse and rebelling, so that they were engaging in high levels of sexually promiscuous activity and so forth.
So in other words, what was happening in the Catholic Church over the past several decades with the sexual molestation of priests on primarily young boys.
Boys, yeah.
Ultimately destroyed or damaged the faith of some of the younger generation who either were victims and or who just lost faith in the church because the church, some of the church leaders were engaging in bad behavior.
Yeah, trauma. This was real trauma for people.
So you've seen that trickle down in terms of the cultural indicators and or decay within, for example, Ireland, which is heavily Roman Catholic.
Indeed. And it was having a huge impact. Look, Ireland always had a problem with alcohol consumption, okay? So, and the priests that I spoke to, the bishops that I spoke to confirmed that whereas alcohol used to be one of the key things in the confessional that would be a sin, now with the addition of pornography, which, was Hugh Hefner threw that into the ball of wax based on his reading of Kinsey. Now with the addition of pornography, what they said was that alcohol was no longer the key issue. Pornography was the key issue too. And these girls and the boys, but the girls in particular in Ireland, were truly reacting to this kind of blow, and the boys were expecting things of them that were sexually what Kinsey laid out as appropriate, and was destroying these youngsters and destroying the country and destroying the fiber and the health and the welfare of the country. So I was there to talk about the origin of that destruction, and that is really what sexual sabotage is all about. It is indeed.
That's your book, Sexual Sabotage.
Sexual Sabotage, about the destruction of our cultures that have been healthy, really, and that have done so much for so many, and so badly right now are suffering from this fallout.
So, what was the solution? Obviously, you've traced some of this significant problem to the very feet of Alfred Kinsey and the Kinsey Institute, that essentially tried to, and its mission was to, remove any restriction of normalcy on human sexual behavior, so that there's absolutely no restrictions. Everything's fine. In fact, the problem is not having sexual promiscuity. That's the cure in Kinsey's view.
Right.
The problem is having sexual mores.
And any repression.
And any repression.
Yeah.
So anything that is right or wrong within human sexuality at any age is the problem in Kinsey's view, and therefore he wanted to just blow all the restrictions away.
Which is what the laws now are trying to do and are doing worldwide.
And we want to talk about that later in the week in terms of the impact and the significant early impact that Kinsey had on the penal codes with regards to criminal law.
Oh, absolutely.
And the decriminalization of certain kinds of sexual activities,
Absolutely.
how that ultimately perpetrated and penetrated the law areas. But in Ireland, as well as in London, we talk about the problem where all of this originated. What is the solution?
Well, for me, of course, I'm a scientist, a scholar, and my job is to present the information.
And they're coming together to try to assimilate the information and to go from there to work on the solution to the problem.
And they cannot come up with the solutions until they know how they got where they are, and then to begin to deal with the laws they're dealing with, which are all their tremendous push for abortion en masse, tremendous push for answering all sorts of sexual problems or sexual promiscuity by simply vaccinating children with more and more STD vaccines.
Like HPV,
Hep B. And of course now we see Big Pharma's got its ham fists, so to speak, in on this situation worse than the cigarette or the tobacco industry ever did, because you're talking about billions
of dollars
coming into Big
especially
Pharma
if you're looking at that on a worldwide basis.
From all this dysfunction, sure.
Yeah, I mean, they actually profit off of the fact of disease
and
promote the idea that children ought to have HPV at a very young age.
So we're going to vaccinate them. Well, instead of telling the truth to the public in the first place about the fact that this breakdown of all the removal of all our constraints is what has happened and what is causing all this difficulty, that we want to still allow this massive display of sexuality in our press, in our media, in our television, ads, and so forth. Instead of going after the appropriate causal agents, the idea is to simply pour more vaccines into the newborn babies.
Now, you're not Roman Catholic. You were invited by the Roman Catholic leadership of various constituencies to come and speak to the Roman Catholic leaders, both in Rome as well as in Ireland and also in London and other places, in Vienna and so forth. How was it received in Great Britain, in Ireland, and, say, London?
Well, as what's called a completed Jew, they were delighted to have me speaking, because their view was that Catholics are not listened to because they appear to have a special interest, and I did not have a special interest. My interest is a scientific one, or a social one, a cultural one. I'm trying to help people understand how they got to a situation where a daughter has been raped, where a son is off carrying on in sexually provocative ways, or has been molested by a man and is engaged in homosexual activity. They want to understand how all this happened. So that's my job. I was received, I think, quite well. As a matter of fact, I was received very well, because people didn't understand how it happened. And my major body of research that identifies what we were during World War II applied across the board. It wasn't just Americans who were very restrictive in their sexual conduct. It was the British. Indeed, it was the Italians. Indeed, it was the Japanese. Indeed, the world of advanced civilizations was quite restrictive during World War II, in terms of their women's behavior, their men's behavior, and so forth. So people were hugely relieved to find out what their own backgrounds were. Then they started to remember, and they remembered, yes, that's true. Their grandfathers, grandmothers were indeed what the data proved that they were. They were restrictive sexually. They did not engage in massive promiscuity, and that made people
changed after Alfred Kinsey's books
Absolutely.
in 1948 and 1953.
Absolutely.
Well, our guest is Dr. Judith Reisman, and she is a world-renowned expert in Alfred Kinsey and human sexology, and her book that we have been wanting to have everyone read is one that I've read, and it's called Sexual Sabotage by Dr. Judith Reisman. I encourage you to get it. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. That's lc.org. And when you're at Liberty Counsel's website, I encourage you to sign up for the Awakening 2012. Dr. Judith Reisman will be in Orlando at the Awakening 2012, April 20 and 21. You can go there now for your registration, and I encourage you to register. Go to lc.org, and right there on the front page, you'll see the Awakening 2012. Sign up for that. We have over 60 national religious and political leaders from around the country. Dr. Judith Reisman will be speaking there as well. Sign up at lc.org for the Awakening 2012. You can also give Liberty Counsel an online credit card contribution and subscribe to our free Liberty Alert email as well as our Liberator newsletter. Go to lc.org.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.